Part 1. The ship from Earth arrived at station on the first day of the new academic cycle. Counselor stood at the docking bay with his, reviewing the file one more time. The human's name was Maya. She was 19 years old. She weighed 52 kilograms. She had no claws, no venom glands, no natural armor, and her eyesight was described as adequate in daylight conditions only. Had been a counselor at the Academy for Galactic Diplomacy for over 30 years. He had welcomed students from 214 different species. He had seen warriors who could tear through steel and scholars who could calculate faster than computers. He had never seen a human before. Nobody at the Academy had. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. A small figure stepped through. Maya was not impressive to look at. She stood just over 1.5 meters tall. Her hair was black and tied back from her face. Her skin was a warm brown color, smooth and completely unprotected by scales or chitin. She wore simple clothes in dark colors, and she carried a single bag over her shoulder. When she saw, she smiled. "Hello," she said. "Thank you for having me." Towered over her. His species, stood nearly 2.5 meters tall on average. They had 4 arms and skin like polished stone. He looked down at the human and felt a strange mix of curiosity and concern. The Terran Collective had fought hard for this exchange position. They had negotiated for 3 years to get one of their people into the most prestigious academy in the galaxy. And they had sent this. "Welcome to Academy," he said. "I am Counselor. I will be your primary advisor during your time here." "It's nice to meet you," Maya said. Her voice was quiet but clear. She did not seem nervous. She did not seem much of anything, really, just calm. Led her through the station toward the academy grounds. Along the way, they passed students from a dozen different species. A group of warriors stopped their conversation to stare. They were massive creatures, each one over 3 meters tall, with thick gray skin and arms like tree trunks. One of them made a sound that Maya did not understand, and the others laughed. Maya looked at them and nodded politely. She kept walking. "The Academy has made special arrangements for your comfort and safety," explained as they walked. "Your dormitory room is on the ground floor to minimize the risk of falls. Your meal plan has been adjusted to account for your species' limited digestive capabilities. And you have been assigned a protective companion who will accompany you to all physical training sessions." "Thank you," Maya said. "That's very thoughtful." "The companion's name is. He is a student in his 3rd year. He volunteered for the position." This was not entirely true. Had been assigned the position by his instructors as a form of punishment for a disciplinary incident the previous semester, but saw no reason to mention this. They arrived at Maya's dormitory. The room was small but clean. It had a bed designed for human proportions, a desk, a storage unit, and a window that looked out over the academy's central courtyard. Maya set down her bag and looked around. "This is perfect," she said. Was not sure if she was being sincere or simply polite. He could not read human expressions very well. Their faces moved in ways that seemed random to him, full of tiny muscle movements that did not match any species he knew. "Your companion will arrive shortly," he said. "Your first classes begin tomorrow morning. Do you have any questions?" Maya thought for a moment. What do most students here want to become after they graduate? It was not the question had expected. Most new students asked about meal times or recreation facilities or how to access the academy's information networks. "Many become diplomats or military officers," he said. "Some become researchers or administrators. The Academy prepares students for leadership positions across the Galactic Council." "Leadership," Maya repeated. She nodded slowly. "That makes sense, thank you, Counselor." Left her alone and walked back to his office. He added a note to her file. "First impression unremarkable. Recommend continued monitoring." Arrived at Maya's room an hour later. He had to duck to get through the doorway, and even then his horns scraped against the frame. He stood in the center of the room and looked down at the human with obvious displeasure. "I am," he said, "I am your protective companion." Maya stood up from her desk and offered her hand, stared at it without comprehension. After a moment, Maya lowered it. "Thank you for agreeing to help me," she said. "I did not agree," he said. "I was assigned. You are my punishment." Most beings would have been offended by this. Maya just nodded. "I understand. I'll try not to be too much trouble." Made a sound in his throat that might have been surprise or might have been annoyance. He was not sure himself. He had expected the human to be frightened of him, or to cry, or to demand that he be replaced. He had not expected her to simply accept his honesty and move on. "The physical training areas are dangerous," he said. "You will stay close to me at all times. You will not touch any equipment without my permission. You will not speak to other students unless they speak to you first." "All right," Maya said. Waited for an argument. None came. He turned and left without another word. The first week passed slowly. Maya attended her classes and took careful notes. She ate the bland nutrient paste that the academy provided for her, even though it tasted like wet cardboard. She followed to the training areas and sat quietly on a bench while the other students practiced combat techniques that would have killed her instantly if she had tried them. The other students noticed her. It was impossible not to. She was the only human in the entire academy, possibly the only human most of them had ever seen in person. Some of them were curious. Most of them were dismissive. A few of them were cruel. There was a named. There were hunters. They had evolved on a world of dense forests and constant competition. They were tall and lean, with sleek fur in shades of silver and black. Their eyes were large and golden, adapted for seeing in low light. Their claws could extend to nearly 10 centimeters in length. They moved with a liquid grace that made other species look clumsy by comparison. Was considered handsome by standards. He was also considered arrogant by the standards of every other species at the academy. He came from an important family. He had never been told no. He did not intend to start hearing it now. He first approached Maya in the dining hall during her second week. She was sitting alone at a small table, eating her nutrient paste and reading something on her. Sat down across from her without asking permission. Two of his friends stood behind him, watching. "You are the human," said. It was not a question. Maya looked up. "Yes. I have read about your species. You are very weak, very fragile. I do not understand why the council allowed you to come here." Maya set down her spoon. "I worked hard to earn this position." Smiled. It was not a friendly expression. His teeth were very sharp. "Worked hard, yes. Humans are known for that, like insects. Always busy, always working. But insects can be stepped on." The other students nearby had stopped talking. They were watching now, waiting to see what would happen. Maya looked at for a long moment. Her face was calm. Her hands were still. "Is there something you want from me?" The question seemed to confuse him. He had expected fear or anger or tears. He had not expected simple directness. "I want you to understand your place," he said. "You do not belong here. You are a mistake, and mistakes get corrected." He stood up and walked away. His friends followed. Maya picked up her spoon and continued eating. That night she found that her storage unit had been broken into. Her spare clothes had been shredded. Her personal items had been scattered across the floor. A message was written on the wall in something that smelled like cleaning chemicals. "Go home." Maya cleaned up the mess. She did not report it. Found out about the incident 3 days later. He noticed that Maya was wearing the same clothes she had worn the day before and the day before that. He asked why. "My other clothes were damaged," Maya said. "I'm waiting for replacements to be shipped from Earth." "Damaged how?" Maya told him. She told him about and the dining hall and the message on her wall. She told him about the other small incidents that had followed. Her mysteriously wiped of all her notes, her food replaced with something that made her stomach cramp for hours, her access card deactivated so she was locked out of her own room. Listened without speaking. When she finished, he said, "Why did you not report this?" "Because it wouldn't help," Maya said. "Family is powerful. The academy would investigate, find nothing conclusive, and then he would be angrier than before. It would make things worse." "So you do nothing." Maya smiled. It was a strange expression, could not read it. "I didn't say that. I said reporting wouldn't help. There's a difference." "What is the difference?" "The difference is that I'm not doing nothing. I'm waiting." "For what?" Maya did not answer. She just kept smiling that strange smile and felt something he had not expected to feel. He felt curious. For the first time since being assigned to this small, soft creature, he wanted to know what would happen next. Part 2. The proving was the most important tradition at Academy. It happened once every academic year, at the end of the first semester. Every student was expected to participate. The rules were simple. Each student would face a beast from one of the galaxy's many death worlds, and they would demonstrate their combat readiness by defeating or surviving the encounter. The beasts were carefully selected to match each student's capabilities. A might face an armored from the heavy gravity world of. A might hunt a pack of shadow stalkers from the eternal twilight forests of. The goal was not to humiliate anyone. The goal was to prove that each student had the physical and mental strength to serve in positions of galactic importance. Participation was technically voluntary, but everyone knew that refusing to participate meant the end of any serious career. A student who would not face the proving would never be trusted with real responsibility. Maya had known about the proving since before she left Earth. She had researched it extensively. She had trained for it in ways that the Academy did not know about and would not have understood. She was ready. What she was not ready for was the selection of beasts was supposed to be random. Each student's name was entered into a system, and the system matched them with an appropriate opponent based on their species' known capabilities. For most students, this meant facing something challenging but survivable. The Academy did not want deaths. Deaths meant investigations and negative publicity and angry families. But the system could be manipulated. His family had connections in the Academy's administration. His uncle sat on the board of governors. His cousin worked in the technology department. When asked for a small favor, no one said no. Maya's name was matched with a war beast. The announcement was made 3 days before the proving. Maya was in her room when she saw it on her. She read the words carefully. Then she read them again. A war beast was not a challenge. It was a death sentence. There were a species that had been wiped out centuries ago. There had been too dangerous even for them. But their war beasts had survived, bred in captivity by collectors and military contractors who valued them for their ferocity. A full-grown war beast stood 4 meters tall at the shoulder. It weighed nearly 1,000 kilograms. It had 6 legs, each one ending in claws that could tear through starship hull plating. Its jaws could bite through titanium. Its hide was so thick that most energy weapons just made it angry. Teams of trained soldiers with heavy weapons struggled to bring down a war beast. A single unarmed student had no chance at all. Maya sat very still for a long time. She thought about her options. She could refuse to participate. She would be safe, but her career would be over. Everything she had worked for, everything her people had sacrificed to get her here, would be wasted. Humanity would be remembered as the species that sent a coward to represent them. She could report the manipulation, but she had no proof. The system would show a random selection, and family would ensure that any investigation found nothing. She would look like a sore loser making excuses. She could accept her fate and walk into that arena knowing she would die. At least she would die with dignity. Or she could win. Maya stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the Academy's central courtyard, where students from 100 different species were going about their daily lives. Most of them thought she was weak. Most of them thought humans were a joke species, barely worth noticing, certainly not worth respecting. They were wrong. She had been patient for a long time now. She had endured the insults and the sabotage and the contempt. She had watched and waited and gathered information. She had let them underestimate her because it was useful to be underestimated. But the time for patience was over. Maya pulled up the Academy's database and began to research war beasts. She had 3 days to prepare. Found her in the training area the next morning. She was alone, which was unusual. The training area was normally crowded with students practicing their combat techniques, but Maya had come early before anyone else arrived. She was exercising, stood in the doorway and watched. The human was doing something strange with her body, moving through a series of positions that seemed to serve no purpose. She would crouch low, then spring up. She would twist and turn and stretch. She would run in place, her feet moving so fast they blurred, then stop suddenly and hold perfectly still. He did not understand what he was seeing, but something about it made him uneasy. "What are you doing?" he asked. Maya stopped and looked at him. She was breathing hard and her skin was covered in a thin layer of moisture. "Preparing," she said. "For the proving." "Yes." Walked closer. "You know what you are facing, the war beast. It cannot be defeated by a human." "That's what everyone keeps telling me." "Because it is true. I have seen the records. The beast that has been selected for you killed 3 soldiers last year during a training exercise. 3, working together with weapons. You are one human with nothing." Maya wiped the moisture from her face with a cloth. "Did the win?" "What?" "The 3 soldiers, did they win?" Hesitated, eventually, after reinforcements arrived. "So the beast can be beaten." "By a team with weapons, after taking casualties." Maya nodded slowly. "Good to know." She went back to her exercises, watched her for a while longer trying to understand. He could not make sense of what he was seeing. The human was not fast by standards. She was not strong by standards. She was not armored or armed or protected in any way. She was just soft flesh and thin bones, moving through patterns that meant nothing. "Why are you not afraid?" he asked finally. Maya stopped again. She looked at him and for a moment something flickered in her eyes, something that had never seen before in any species. It was not anger. It was not confidence. It was something deeper, something colder, something that made him take a step backward without meaning to. "I am afraid," she said quietly. "I'm terrified, but fear doesn't change what I have to do, so I put it aside and I focus on what matters." "What matters?" "Survival." The day of the proving arrived. The arena was packed with spectators. Students and faculty filled the stands, along with visitors from across the galaxy who had come to see the future leaders of the council prove their worth. Holographic cameras floated above the sand, broadcasting the event to billions of viewers. Maya waited in the preparation area beneath the arena. She could hear the crowd above her, cheering and roaring as student after student faced their beasts. She heard the announcer calling names, describing victories and defeats. She heard the screams of the beasts and the shouts of the fighters. Was with her. He had not been required to come. His duties as her protective companion did not extend to the proving itself, but he had come anyway. "You do not have to do this," he said for the 3rd time. "You could leave, go back to Earth. No one would blame you." "I would blame me," Maya said. "You will die." "Maybe." Made a sound of frustration. "Why? Why does this matter so much? You are one human, your species has billions. Your death will not change anything." Maya looked at him. "It will change everything. Right now, every species in the galaxy thinks humans are weak. They think we're fragile little creatures who can't compete, who don't belong here, who should stay on our own world and leave the important work to the real species. If I run away today, they'll be right. If I die today, at least I'll die proving them wrong." "That is foolish." That's humanity. The announcer's voice echoed through the preparation area. Next competitor, Maya of Earth. Maya stood up. She walked toward the tunnel that led to the arena. At the entrance, she paused and looked back at. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Then she walked into the light. The crowd fell silent when they saw her. She was so small, so fragile, so utterly out of place in this arena where giants fought monsters. She walked to the center of the sand and stood there alone, her hands at her sides. On the other side of the arena, a massive gate began to rise. The war beast emerged. It was even bigger than Maya had expected. Its 6 legs churned the sand as it walked, each footstep leaving a crater. Its hide was a dark greenish-black, covered in plates of natural armor that overlapped like scales. Its eyes glowed with a red light that seemed to come from deep within its skull. Its mouth opened, revealing rows of teeth as long as Maya's forearm, and it let out a roar that shook the stands. Maya did not move. The beast saw her. Its eyes locked onto her small form. It lowered its head and began to charge. 900 kilograms of muscle and fury and killing instinct, moving at 40 kilometers per hour, aimed directly at one small human who stood motionless in the sand. The crowd held its breath. At the last possible moment, Maya moved. She did not run away. She ran toward the beast. She sprinted directly at it, her legs pumping, her arms swinging, and at the instant before impact, she dropped to her knees and slid beneath its massive body. The beast's jaws snapped shut on empty air. Its claws tore through the space where she had been standing a heartbeat before. Maya was already behind it. She was already on her feet. She was already moving. The beast spun around, confused and angry. It had never missed before. It had never faced prey that moved toward it instead of away. It roared again and charged. This time Maya did not dodge. This time she jumped. She leaped onto the beast's head, grabbing one of its armored plates for balance. The beast thrashed, trying to shake her off, but she held on. She climbed along its neck, moving toward its back, always staying just out of reach of its claws and teeth. The crowd was screaming now. They did not understand what they were seeing. The human should be dead. The human should have been dead the moment the gate opened. But there she was, climbing on a war beast like it was nothing, like it was easy, like she had done this 1,000 times before. Maya reached the beast's throat. She wrapped her arms around its neck. She locked her hands together, and she squeezed. The beast stopped thrashing. It stopped moving entirely. It stood frozen, its body rigid, its eyes wide with something that might have been confusion or might have been fear. No creature had ever grabbed it by the throat before. No creature had ever been strong enough. But Maya was not squeezing with strength. She was squeezing with leverage, with technique, with the knowledge of anatomy that her species had accumulated over thousands of years of fighting things bigger than themselves. She knew exactly where to press, exactly how to cut off the blood flow to the brain, exactly how long it would take. The beast's legs buckled. It fell to its knees. Its eyes began to dim. And Maya, small and soft and fragile Maya, hoisted 1,000 kilograms of war beast off the ground by its throat. For 12 seconds she held it there. The crowd was silent. The cameras were focused. The entire galaxy was watching. Then she let go. The beast collapsed onto the sand, unconscious but alive. Maya stood over it, breathing hard, blood running down her arms from where its claws had torn her skin. She looked up at the stands. She found in the crowd. He was staring at her with an expression she had never seen on his face before. Fear. Humans, Maya said, her voice carrying across the arena, are persistence predators. We don't catch our prey by being faster or stronger. We catch them by never ever stopping. She paused. I've been very patient with you. I'm asking you politely to stop. The silence lasted for a long moment. Then the crowd began to roar. Part 3. The medical bay was quiet after the chaos of the arena. Maya lay on a bed while machines hummed around her. analyzing her injuries and administering treatment. The cuts on her arms were deep but clean. The doctors had expected to find torn muscles and broken bones. Instead, they found only surface wounds that were already beginning to heal. Doctor, the Academy's chief medical officer, stood beside the bed with an expression of complete bewilderment. She was unlike Counselor, but older, with patterns of silver running through her stone-gray skin. She had treated injuries from every species in the galaxy. She had never seen anything like this. "Your muscles should be destroyed," she said, looking at her scanner readout for the 10th time. "The amount of force required to lift that beast, even for a moment, should have torn every fiber in your arms and back. Your spine should be compressed. Your joints should be dislocated, but you are essentially intact." Maya nodded. "Adrenaline." "Explain." "It's a hormone my species produces under extreme stress. It temporarily enhances our strength and speed. It allows us to ignore pain. It makes us faster, stronger, and more focused than we normally are." She smiled slightly. "We call it the fight-or-flight response. Every human has it." Doctor stared at her. "Every human." "Every single one." The doctor turned back to her scanner. She made several notes. She called in 2 assistants and instructed them to draw blood samples for analysis. She contacted the xenobiology department and requested a full consultation. Within hours, Maya's blood was being studied by the Academy's top researchers. They found compounds they had never seen before. They found evidence of a biological system designed to push the human body beyond its normal limits in moments of crisis. They found that humans were not the fragile, helpless creatures they had always believed them to be. They found that humans were dangerous. The news spread quickly. By the next morning, everyone at the Academy knew what had happened in the arena. They knew that the small human had defeated a war beast with her bare hands. They knew that she had held it by the throat until it lost consciousness. They knew that she had walked away with nothing but scratches. They also knew about. The investigation began almost immediately. Someone in the technology department had become nervous after watching the proving. They had checked the selection records and found irregularities. They had traced those irregularities back to Cousin. They had reported their findings to the Academy's disciplinary board. Was called before the board 3 days after the proving. He stood in the center of a circular room, surrounded by the senior faculty members who would decide his fate. He was still arrogant, still confident that his family's connections would protect him. Everything. But the evidence was clear. The records showed exactly what he had done. Multiple witnesses came forward to describe his harassment of Maya over the preceding weeks. About the damage to her belongings, the poisoned food, the messages meant to drive her away. The board deliberated for less than an hour, was expelled from the Academy. His family's protests were ignored. His future in galactic politics was over. Maya was not present for the hearing. She was in her room reading a book on her. When came to tell her the news, she simply nodded. "Good," she said. "I hope he learned something from this." "You are not angry." "I was angry for a while. But anger is exhausting, and I have better things to do with my energy." Sat down across from her. He was quiet for a long moment, trying to find the words for what he wanted to say. "I owe you an apology," he finally managed. Maya looked up from her. "For what?" "For everything, for treating you as a burden, for assuming you were weak, for not believing in you." He paused. "I was wrong. I have never been more wrong about anything in my life." Maya smiled. It was a real smile this time, warm and genuine. "You don't owe me an apology. You were working with the information you had. Everyone was. That's not your fault. But I should have looked deeper. I should have questioned my assumptions. Now you know, that's what matters." The semester continued. Maya returned to her classes, but everything was different now. The other students no longer looked at her with pity or dismissal. They looked at her with curiosity and respect. Some of them were afraid. A few of them tried to become her friends. The faculty began paying closer attention to her academic work. They discovered that she was not just physically capable but intellectually formidable. Her essays showed a depth of strategic thinking that surprised them. Her contributions to class discussions revealed knowledge of history, diplomacy, and conflict resolution that went far beyond what they had expected from a species they considered primitive. Counselor updated her file. The new assessment was very different from the original. Reevaluation required, he wrote. Initial classification based on flawed data. Human capabilities significantly underestimated. Recommend full integration into advanced programs. 3 months after the proving, Maya was invited to a private meeting with the Academy's senior director, a being so ancient and powerful that most students never saw them at all. The director was one of the original founding species of the Galactic Council. They existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions that other species could not perceive. Speaking with them was said to be like speaking with a living piece of the universe itself. Maya walked into the director's chamber and felt a presence that seemed to surround her from every direction at once. A voice spoke in her mind, warm and impossibly vast. Maya of Earth, you have proven yourself in ways we did not anticipate. Thank you, Director. The Galactic Council is always seeking new perspectives, new strengths, new approaches to the challenges that face our civilization. We believe that humanity may offer something we have been lacking. Maya waited. She could feel the director examining her, not just her physical form but something deeper, something essential. Your species is young. You have been traveling among the stars for less than 2 centuries. But in that time, you have shown a capacity for adaptation that we find remarkable. You do not excel in any single area, but you excel at becoming what you need to be. You face challenges that should destroy you, and you survive. You face enemies that should defeat you, and you win. We call it stubbornness, Maya said, or determination depending on who you ask. The presence seemed to laugh, though there was no sound. We call it something else. We call it potential. A pause. Then, the Security Council has requested permission to recruit you. They believe your skills and your perspective would be valuable in certain high-risk situations. Situations where conventional approaches have failed. Situations where what is needed is not strength or speed or technology, but something else entirely. What kind of situations? Negotiations with hostile species. Interventions in conflicts that seem impossible to resolve. Missions where the probability of success is considered too low for conventional operatives. Another pause. Missions where what is needed is someone who will never, ever stop. Maya thought about this. She thought about her home on Earth, about the years of training and preparation, about the hopes of her entire species riding on her success. She thought about and his cruelty, about and his slow journey toward understanding, about the war beast lying unconscious on the sand while the galaxy watched. She thought about what it meant to represent humanity. I'll do it, she said. The presence seemed to nod, though there was no physical movement. We knew you would. Report to the Security Council's liaison officer tomorrow morning. Your training will begin immediately. Maya left the director's chamber and walked back through the academy's halls. Students moved aside as she passed, not out of fear exactly, out of respect, out of recognition that she was someone worth noticing. Was waiting for her outside her dormitory. He had a package in his hands. What is that? Maya asked. A gift from my clan. He held out the package. Inside was a piece of fabric in deep blue and silver, the traditional colors of warriors. It is an honor cloth. We give them to those who have proven themselves worthy of respect. You are the first non to receive one in over 300 years. Maya took the cloth carefully. It was surprisingly soft, woven from materials she did not recognize. Thank you, this means a lot to me. You earned it. He paused, then added, I have requested reassignment. I want to continue as your companion if you will have me, not as a protector, as a partner." Maya smiled. "I would like that." They stood together in the hallway, the warrior and the human, so different in every physical way but united by something that transcended biology. By respect, by understanding, by the recognition that strength came in many forms, and that the galaxy was larger and more complex than any single species could understand alone. 1 year later, Maya graduated from Academy with the highest honors ever awarded to a human student. Her thesis on adaptive diplomacy was required reading for the next 3 classes. Her combat scores remained unmatched. Her network of friends and allies spanned a dozen species and 3 galactic sectors. She accepted her commission with the Security Council and began her new career. Her first mission was a negotiation with a species that had been at war with the Council for centuries. Everyone expected her to fail. Everyone expected her to die. She succeeded. The war ended. The species joined the Council as provisional members. Her second mission was a rescue operation on a hostile world where 3 previous teams had been killed. She brought everyone home. Her third mission was classified. Eve did not know the details. But when she returned, she was promoted to a rank that humans had never held before. The other species began to revise their assessments. They began to study human history, human biology, human psychology. They learned about the wars humans had fought against each other, the diseases they had survived, the environments they had conquered. They learned about adrenaline and determination and the refusal to surrender. They learned that humans were not weak. Humans were patient. Humans were adaptive. Humans were stubborn beyond all reason and fierce beyond all expectation. And they learned something else, something that made some species nervous and other species hopeful. They learned that this was only the beginning. Maya sat in her office on the Security Council's flagship, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. Her walls were decorated with honors from a dozen different species. Her desk held gifts from beings she had helped, conflicts she had resolved, disasters she had prevented. On one corner sat the honor cloth from clan. On another sat a small stone from Earth, gray and smooth, a reminder of home. She was 30 years old now. She had accomplished more in 11 years than most beings accomplished in a lifetime. But she was not finished. She was not even close to finished. There was so much more to do. So many more problems to solve. So many more conflicts to resolve. So many more beings to help. The galaxy was vast and complicated and often cruel, and it needed people who would keep going when everything seemed impossible. It needed humans. Maya smiled and turned back to her reports. Somewhere out there, someone needed help. Someone was facing a challenge they could not overcome alone. Someone was about to learn what humanity was capable of. She could not wait to show them.